My name is Francesca Altamura, and I'm a New York-based curator and organizer in conversation with new Portugal-based artists Sofia Crespo and Filicon McCormick, who are participating in Control the Virus Volume 3, a year-long digital exhibition curated by Martin Mayorga and Vanessa Morel, founders of Data Eagle Art, and Zaba Jabbar, artist and founder of Her Visions. Thanks for hopping on with me to discuss your work for Control the Virus. I want to first start by asking you how your artistic partnership with Filicon came about. I know you operate under the name Entangled Others.
Yeah, hi Francesca. Really nice to be here today. And yeah, I'm Sofia Crespo. I'm a generative artist. And yeah, how we started with Pelican is it began already like soon 3 years ago. And we started with a project that was originally about the extinction of life forms, but then eventually became like a statement about the insectile life forms and looking at them through the lenses of new technologies. And yeah, the project is called Artificial Remnants, and it was kind of like the beginning of our collaboration. I introduced Pelican to machine learning, which he hadn't done before. He came from an architectural background, and he was moving more towards the artistic side, and he wanted to work as an artist. So we kind of had like paths that converged at this like eventually at this like artistic interest for machine learning, and since then we began collaborating on several projects, and eventually we started our small studio called Entangled Others, which is where we do our artistic research and experiments, basically.
That's great. Can you begin by describing a little bit about the origins of your work for Control the Virus 3, which is called Beneath the Neural Waves, that I assume was made entirely during the year 2021, right?
Yes, yeah, exactly. So Beneath the Neural Waves is a project that originally began after the pandemic had started. Before that, we had been working by like our work was very focused on imagining new life forms using machine learning, neural networks, and kind of dreaming up like speculative life forms. But the way that it was done was by like generating one single creature here and one single creature there. And after the pandemic, it became evident that we wanted to shift the focus towards an ecosystem. And we wanted to talk about how creatures live together and share an environment, and how one thing influences others. So as we started working on that, we realized that the concept of relationship is something that's very abstract, and that it isn't an easy concept to illustrate. So that's what Beneath the Neural Waves became about. It became about dreaming up an ecosystem, and it became about visualizing a relationship that is invisible, but that is there. And that's kind of like the whole mission of our studio. That's why it's called Entangled Others, because it's about looking or bringing visibility to those that we live entangled with, but that are understood as to the other, the others that we maybe don't see, but that exist there in the same world. So yeah, and the project that we're showing here in this show is particularly about connecting to these life forms that live in the deep sea, and that in a way they're kind of alien to us because they live under such immense amounts of pressure. So the project that we're showing here is about like being able to digitally dive into the depths of the sea and seeing like life forms arise from there. So
yeah, this is was super fascinating for me to understand exactly sort of what the life forms are that we're seeing when we scroll through the work, scroll down into the work. Can you talk then about, you know, how these creatures sort of relate to neural networks and your process for creating them? Because I know, you know, it was super helpful for me, for example, someone who's sort of tech illiterate in the deep way that others aren't, to learn about how you created those, because they're not actual, or they maybe are, but they're not actually, you know, sea life that we understand to exist, right?
right. Yeah, so the way that neural networks work in general is that they take patterns from data and they are able to generate new new patterns with that. So so the way that we work with them is we create first a data set, and then we feed that data set to a neural network. And then in that process, there's training. So there's a process where the network is learning the key features from that data set that it finds relevant. And then from there, we generate iterations of content with that data. So so that's kind of like a simplified, oversimplified explanation of what the neural networks are doing. Something that I'm fascinated by is the kind of augmented creativity that like being able to generate lots and lots of variations of a pattern, lots of arrangements of color, of shapes, and particularly life forms. So yeah, what we did is we took kind of like an outline. We created like outlines for creatures, and then we made a neural network create a creature with that shape. So it's kind of cool. It's a bit like collage, but digital neural networks. um, and yeah, and basically like after that we kind of like arranged them into the web experience, but there's a whole process of like generating lots of trial and error and lots of and generating like lots and lots of different variations of a single thing. So there's definitely a curatorial process in there too, saying like this creature works, this creature doesn't work, this doesn't make any sense, this looks great. And yeah.
Yeah, I remember one of the fascinating things we had, you know, we touched upon in our last conversation was also that marine data sets are almost non-existent. You will type in sort of like fish and you'll get, you know, fried fish that people are eating, or, you know, grilled fish, and, you know, really like foods that you would see in restaurants or, you know, home cooks. And I thought it was, yeah, maybe you could elaborate a little bit more on that. And it was just so fascinating to actually get sent the link that I could, you know, click on to go see for myself where these data sets live, which was just a simple link like www.image/net.org, which is funny. Yeah, you understand sort of neural networks and data sets at this point, but almost only theoretically. So to have like the link where I can actually see that they exist online was really cool. So yeah, returning to the question of, you know, marine data sets, you know, why are they so lacking?
Yeah, you mean like ImageNet, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That's like one of the largest standard data sets that are used to feed neural networks, because it's like a large open source project So that contains millions and millions of images. So in a way, it represents a lot of how we think and how we categorize things. So, but yeah, like when it comes to marine datasets, there are several reasons why it is really hard to obtain data from the sea like that. One of the reasons is that it is hard to photograph properly because it's underwater. You need special equipment to do that. And secondly, because of the depth, lack of light, um, the immense like pressure that means, you know, the deeper you go, the higher pressure, and you know, then suddenly you cannot go anymore. With humans cannot go that deep, so you need to go with a submarine. Um, so there is a real problem when it comes to trying to obtain data from the sea, and especially if you want to look at live pictures of creatures which are alive, because lots of people love seafood. So when you are working on a data set and you want to have crab, you know, there are going to be like tons of images of people cooking crab, you know, and it's just, it is quite hard to filter. There's been times that we were working on data sets like octopus, for instance, or squid, and there were more pictures of people cooking the creature than there are of the actual creature in the sea swimming or whatever. So sometimes we even had to train a second neural network to help us filter out the ones that aren't, that are like cooking or whatever. So, but so yeah, when it comes to when it comes to representation, like both Pelican and I, we agree that there is definitely an underrepresentation of sea life in terms of data sets.
Yeah, that's so fascinating to hear about, because obviously I would have no idea about this. Another thing, you know, just to wrap up this Q&A, to sort of have a final question, is something that we also touched upon in our last conversation was this sort of refined look, which too often you can't really say that about net-based works. They're often trying to do the most, you know, really showcase the technology or software that's used to make them. But I think, you know, your work, yours and Filicon's work is, you know, definitely, you know, some calming, gives some calming meditative aspect. I'm wondering, you know, can you speak about this and sort of the overall aesthetic and vibe that Beneath the Neural Waves is giving off?
I'm glad you find it refined. I mean, like I personally wouldn't say that about all the pieces that we have done. There are pieces that are just like, for example, like made in 3D, and some of the 3D objects are kind of low poly when they're on the web, because like web can't support that many polygons. Um, but yeah, I guess like in general, that's something that we try to go for. We like showing things like in high resolution and if we can, and we try to do that whenever it is possible. I mean, I don't know. I guess it's kind of like an intuitive decision as well that we do, and something that's kind of particular to Pelican and I is that we very often have completely different points of view of like how to work. So we always end up like talking and talking over like, how are we going to do this? Does this fit? Usually Pelican is the more like structured, and he wants everything to look like very perfect. And I'm more like, let's make it chaotic and with a big headline or with a big title and everything else like on the side and very colorful. So we have very different kind of like ways of seeing things, and we often try to arrive to a place that compromises both those viewpoints, but in a way is like balancing as well for each of us, because afterwards I look at the thing and I think, oh, I'm glad we did it like that. I'm glad it looks more organized than than I would have done it. And yeah, and maybe Felice says the same, I don't know, but
well, that's a really nice place to end this conversation. It's like, you know, compromise and artistic duos is a really great thing. So Sophia, thank you so much, and yeah, it's been great chatting with you.
Thank you. Yeah, and hope you enjoy the experience to the people who are watching.